result of people going to preparatory classes will actually get multiplied manyfold. I think the bottom line is, I think one exam is too little. I think you've probably got to have 2, 3, 4 exams, but you shouldn't have one for every college as it is today. And they have clashing dates, and that's what causes the tension. I think most people are smart, or should be smart enough, at least if they want to do engineering, to know that I'm not going to get into the Harvards or the Stanfords or whatever. I'm going to get into maybe a Clemson or, name whatever college, and then apply to those colleges. Right? So most people will do the exam where they think they'll be able to get in. If they feel, let me take a bet on something else, but do that, focus on that one exam that gets you into the colleges that exam will fulfill.
No, so this pattern that is being talked about is have one exam, which is like, say, the SAT equivalent or the advanced SAT equivalent, and based upon that, people can then choose where they want to apply, not have multiple entries. See, right now you have AIEEE, you have JEE. Besides these, you also have Karnataka board. Various boards will have their own engineering exams. So there are a number of different engineering exams which happen. Okay. So instead of that, replace it only by one, and in that one you have sort of a marking and a ranking or whatever, and use that for all engineering college admissions.
I don't think it's A, doable, and B, you're right. I might have a bad day, and why should I not get into the IITs? At least let me get into an NIT. So if you have 2 or 3 exams, people have the chance. You might say exam number 2, 10% of the top will be looked at for NITs. Or, you can define some such criteria. But I do think you should have 2, 3, or 4 exams that are defined. And then, stress is something we are putting on our kids by saying it's a meritocracy. Everyone has stress. It's not that parents in the US don't have stress when they've got to get their kids into college. They all have stress.
But they give one exam.
Yeah, but the SAT also is now not being discounted by a lot of universities because they say preparatory classes can influence the result, and that's not what they want. So again, you have that big issue, even with the SATs in the US.
Yeah, I think the fundamental question here is not whether it should be one exam or not, but what are you testing for what purpose? I think like the young student or recent student just said, that we're all agreeing that the school system that is basically broken. It's not something that is lent itself very well to supplying what is required for higher education in a very effective way. Having said that, what happens after that?
Hari, just to interrupt you there.
Yeah.
By the way, the school system says that we are broken because of the joint entrance exam, because what happens is that some of the best students end up going for the quota classes and so on, or do not give...
I understand. But the system is not broken. It is the students who are preferring to do this rather than something else. But what I'm trying to say is the system is able to provide the inputs in a proper fashion that dovetails into what happens afterwards. Then there is a continuity possible in what's happening there. That is not there today. And there is a lot of evidence of students who don't do very well in their school examinations and some in the university examinations that come across very well in the JEEs. So what are you tested for in the JEE or for the IIT entrance is something quite different from what you are tested for in other examinations. If that is true, if that is still true, I'm just saying this as I understood it those days. If that is still true, then I do not think there can be one examination. You cannot have one examination to select students who you want with certain capabilities which you care for, with others don't care for. Does the general engineering education system in the country, does it look for a student of similar characteristics, whether it is application, problem solving oriented or rote and repetition oriented, as somebody said? So whatever, if there are 3 levels, as you said, one is to learn and to regurgitate, or rather mug up and regurgitate, learn and apply, solve more complex problems. What are you looking for? Or lateral thinking? How do you want to define that? So are you looking for a different kind of a product to come into your system? And is what is fundamentally giving the brand what it is, distinguishing what it is? I think the most important thing is not to dilute something that's been created very well so far like Arjun said, don't mess with it if it is working very well. How do we do that? And therefore, how can you have one test and then say we are still different and distinguished, or be able to distinguish from there on?
Well, it happens in the case of CAT.
No, but
Because in the case of CAT, the IIMs are there, but other colleges also pick up from.
But they have an interview on top of CAT.
They have an interview on top of CAT. Yeah.
Well, my problem is copying. You remember recently last week one teacher was murdered because he would not allow students to copy. If you are going to have 1 million or more students taking an examination, the temptation to copy is enormous. And unfortunately in our country we do not have the kind of discipline we would like to have. So this is one argument I have against a single examination. In any case, I am against deciding the career of a student on the basis of a single examination.
So the argument against that very often is that if you don't do that, then with the sort of corrupt practices which are there, you may actually end up with a very non-transparent system.
No, you leave it to the teachers. For example, I entered the colleges because the teacher said you are good enough. That's all. Nobody asked any question beyond that. So I did meet the teachers. I did meet the principal. Father D'Souza said you are good enough. I met Professor Gopalakrishnan. He said you are good enough. So I got it. So that's how it was done. Well, 60 years ago. But now you don't want to trust the teachers. That's the problem. Why don't you trust the teachers? You don't trust it?
Yeah. Do you trust the process for the examination? Do you think that that process will be fair, transparent, and everything?
It is good enough for short testing and not for selection. That's my answer.
No. And you don't trust people. I think what you're saying here is I don't trust people, I trust the process. I don't believe that our present government has in any way shown, or any of the state governments have shown that they can run a process that's transparent and trustworthy.
Okay, so a lot of people essentially say that the IIT standard is what it is, and that meritocracy is because you had the JEE, which could not be tampered with, where nobody else who had not, whether it was a director's son or whatever, or an MP's son or the Prime Minister's daughter or whatever, could not come in.
This was a fact. This was a fact when the number of students who are writing examination was 20,000, 30,000. And there were enough teachers from the IITs to supervise the examinations. Now, when there are million students trying that, it is going to be very difficult.
No, but even today, 5 lakh students sit for the JEE, and IEEE it is 10 lakhs. So magnitude-wise, it is more or less the same sort of number.
No, I do hear there is copying going on in the JEE now. I'm sorry.
In which case, all the more reason why there should be a reform, that if the JEE is not.
If you do not give 100% weightage to the JEE, then you will find there will be less tension. Because then the student has to do well in school. Because he has done well in school, he knows that he is going to be reasonably well. And if he knows that he is in the top 10%, he is likely to get into the IIT. Otherwise, he goes to NIIT or some other place. He will not try. Now, I know a case. In fact, I interviewed him, who came from Bihar. He failed 4 times. He said, why should I not have a 5th attempt? He was the son of a zamindar who could afford it. But such thing would not happen if you say you are going to take the top 10% of students on a percentile score, 90 percentile score from the various school boards. Now you find the number of students who are applying for the IITs will come down. Then you can interview them. Please do not discredit the quality of a teacher who can select a student. After all, his reputation depends on the kind of student he selects.
So, sir, there are a number of tweets and a number of messages that are there which say that use everything else only as a selection criteria, but ultimately use only JEE as the only yardstick for selection.
But sir, JEE is still supposed to be the fairest form of examination. I think all of us, I mean, to Professor Indaresan, we still believe that JEE is the toughest examination in the world and the fairest. So to that extent, I think probably it may not be absolutely foolproof.